Arkham City, The Order of the World, issue 3, Dan Waters with Danny on art. It's been an interesting little book so far, and this issue goes deeper into what the 10-Eyed Man is planning. We obviously have Joy still working with him, questioning her own sanity the more she is putting up with his shit, including the fact
the
that
map is working.
Yeah, her apartment smells like absolute crap because he keeps having like weird body parts and stuff and pans, and it's just making everything stink, as you imagine it might.
Specifically like an abattoir, she says.
Yeah.
So it's all that raw meat.
I mean, that's like, there's very few worse things I can think smell-wise than like going past an abattoir. Like, it stinks. Like, it genuinely is disgusting, like, going past.
I don't know what that is.
Abattoirs where they kill all the animals for your meat.
Oh yeah, there's a pig farm by a local high school we used to have to play football at, and that smell would come. And I don't know if they slaughtered the pigs there, if that was just the pig smell.
Yeah, I guess the more generic term would be slaughterhouse, maybe?
Yeah. Doesn't say.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a much nicer
I
word.
live fairly near one, so I'm almost used to the smell at this point.
That's dark.
Yeah.
Connor's going to be the next Texas Chainsaw Massacre because he's used to the abattoir smell.
Used to the smell of death.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you've got this stuff. The detective obviously is in hospital because he got shot at the end of the last issue. And I'll be honest, they started talking about the Red Hood, or the Red Hooded figure, and I actually couldn't remember if it was Red Hood or Azrael. I was like, was it Azrael? I think it was Azrael. And obviously later on in the issue it confirmed it was, but I actually for a second went, or was it Red Hood? Because it wouldn't surprise me if it was Red Hood.
Red Hood would have worked on some levels, but I think Azrael is more interesting for this story.
No, he is. It was just
power of belief.
It was more just like a memory thing because it's been a month and
and you hear someone about Red Hoods and you're like,
So she talks about Terry Man stinking up the place, and he's got this plan, and sure enough, we see more examples of the inmates being where they are on this map. If you put the map of the asylum over the city, so we get more of that. We get this great thing where it's Dr. Phosphorus is like next to like an apartment, and he's having an effect on the couple who live in it, and her hair's starting to fall out and he's losing his teeth and they don't know why, and he's looking through like a hole in the wall like Norman Bates, just like, oh, I guess that's my bad. I guess I'm doing that.
Yeah, you're getting radiation poisoning because the guy that lives next to him is radioactive,
which is pretty dark when you stop and think about it.
Well, because Dr. Joy is talking about, re-mainstreaming these people from Arkham that maybe didn't belong in Arkham, but they also can't be in the regular world, no fault of their own, right? Like, it's not like Phosphorus is trying to hurt these people.
Yeah.
So
Phosphorus is just hiding by the look of it. He's not actively doing anything.
Yeah, what I kind of dig, so they go to the park or somewhere near the park, and they find Grundy, right? That's who Terry Man's looking for. And sure enough, his map was right again. I like the detail here from Joy where she kind of like, I'm just realizing that I'm standing with two people alone with no protection, because she says that, usually whenever I've met Grundy before, there's been like reinforced glass like between them, and she's out here alone with these two like people who could easily kill her, and it's maybe like dawning on her. But it goes into this backstory because it talks about Grundy being alive, much longer than anyone else, and talks about how Gotham was kind of based. This prophet led people to Gotham back in the day when it was first founded, and his prophecies were very convenient. His visions were convenient because it was all, we're going to prosper, we're going to build a city, we're going to do all this stuff. But the second he sort of changed and said, no, now the visions are actually kind of bad, like bad things might happen here. Oh, that's an inconvenience. We don't want to listen to that. So instead, they hang him from a tree, and it's almost like the city was built on this like murdered prophet who told them that bad things were going to happen here. So it's kind of almost like there's almost a curse on the entire city, and that's why there's so many messed up people in Gotham, is because of so it's playing into its own little like mythology that's building with the spookiness of it.
And it's building this mythology with Ten Man as well, the idea that we're like, okay, he's a bit on the insane side, that's why he was in Arkham, but there does seem to be something to it. His map is working. He did predict someone was going to show up at the apartment. He ripped
someone's jawbone out with his bare hands and no tools.
Oh, yeah, we're not saying it should be reintegrated into society, man.
No. But no, what Connor's saying, there's something about him. There's
even
dark
that I
magic.
but I can explain that as like, oh, he has like weird powers, right? But this here is like, no, there's something to his actual like rituals and his prophecies as well, because he you know, he talks about how he had to get out because someone was coming to the apartment, and you know, and then Azrael shows up, right?
Yeah.
It's like he is right on things, and that are interesting as to how he's right.
Yeah, it's almost a trope actually, is you have someone who sounds like complete crazy, but if you listen to them, occasionally they actually say things that does actually pan out. So you know, like it's sort of playing with that trope. But I really like this idea that the city's built on this corpse, and it goes into the origin of Arkham Asylum, and Amadeus Arkham went crazy, and you know that's sort of part of the story. That's part of this, and it feels like they want to try and get rid of the ghost or the curse of Amadeus Arkham, and to do it, they need the skull of this prophet from back in the day, back in the dawn of Gotham. And they're going to go into Gotham Park to get it, and the Joy's like, hey, if you get seen by the public, like, the police are going to swarm this place, like, in seconds. So,
you're right.
I have to go and do it. So, this middle-aged woman, as she points out, has to go into the park and just start digging a hole next to this tree, like a crazy person. So, like, I really don't... It's funny, like, I think this book... Like, with both issue 2 and 3, I've had this thing where when I've started the issue, I've struggled to maybe remember exactly what we were doing in last issue, but it always completely grabs me as I get into it, and then by the time I get to the end.
It's got a tone unlike anything else that DC are publishing right now. It's so creepy, ethereal, but like...
Yeah, I was gonna say, it feels like a horror book, but not in the way like it's scary. Like, definitely like a Vertigo from what I've heard about.
It feels like it could be a Lynch movie. In that way of just on the tone of like it's still technically this is in the real world, but it's almost a little bit adjacent.
I think I would probably pivot and say it feels like something like Prince of Darkness to me, like a Carpenter Doom.
Now we're talking with
end of the world kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a sense of like darkness, but not quite horror, where it's trying to, you know, it's not trying to be scary, but there's a sense of otherworldliness.
It's more foreboding. Like, there's something sinister about everything, and like there's no hope, and like it's the right story to tell with these types of characters, and it's a really interesting spin to put on this, and the idea that one of these villains is trying to like beat the spirit of Amadeus Arkham, who's like coming after them, because
it's whether or not do we even believe this spirit exists.
And Azrael, of course, shows up and tries to attack. It actually kills Grundy, and obviously Grundy will come back because they point that out.
Yeah, kills Grundy. Yeah, that's what he does.
But he does behead him. We do get to see him behead Grundy, and then he comes in, and Ten-Eyed Man has to like sort of strangle him and all that. And then at the ending, I actually was a little bit confused here because they look up and they refer to this as Amadeus Arkham, but I was just thinking it looked kind of like Phosphorus again because of the color.
The same. Yeah, and it was only when I was like, "This is a completely different location."
Yeah,
that I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, I guess it is someone else entirely." Because I also thought it was Phosphorus at first.
And it even says next to Phosphorus fires and it burns, right? And that's like that's within this panel of like him in this green color. So,
yeah, but I see that this could be like a glowing green, like of a ghost.
Yeah, that's what it is, right? Yeah. But I had to like second guess it because it was so similar to Phosphorus's look earlier.
Yeah, and it made me question. I was like, because I was like, okay, this is Amadeus, and I went, oh, I guess that wasn't Phosphorus earlier. I guess that was Amadeus, and then I went and looked. I was like, no, it's actually very different. It's a very different green.
Yeah,
when you actually go back and compare it.
When you compare them, it is. But not only does it make sense in the context of that scene that it's Phosphorus, because the whole point is that there's radiation poisoning, is that, again, the next time text clearly is indicating that Phosphorus is going to play a role in the next issue.
I was a little confused by that as well, but I don't even think it's necessarily a fault of anything that the book does wrong. I think it's just weird associations. It's maybe the choice of design on Arkham.
I would just say that the solution to this is to not have your ghost have a green tint. Like, go with a blue tint or something. Just make it different.
Unless there is a possibility that it's actually important and that ties into Phosphorus somehow next issue.
Okay, sure. If that's the case, then
you'll kind of forgive it a little bit more.
Then fine, yeah. But it's still a little conflicting in the moment, just to like...
It is.
Because it made me like sort of think about who it was in a way that I don't think was smooth.
Same. It's probably my only real complaint with this issue is
that
moment.
Yeah, they are still obviously consistent with before. It's got the spooky kind of almost cut. I mean, it's not, but it almost feels like the blacks are like cut out and put on top of other colors.
Mhm.
You know?
I love the way Azrael is in this book with that that bright, vivid red
Yeah.
against
Well,
pure black, and there's no hard lines that cut off. It's just like there's no shading gradient between them. It's just one or the other.
Yep.
On his weird cape with all the ribbons.
Yeah.
Right, too. Like it makes for a like he cuts a figure.
Yeah. No, it looks great.
Yeah, looks good. All this like Gotham, like, because obviously we've had a lot of stories over the year that have, you know, Scott Snyder did it a lot in his Batman run about talking about the history of Gotham, and we've had a lot of these things over the years. But this is like looking at it through a very specific lens that's sort of tying into almost like a, I don't want to say a Lovecraftian, but just like a like a horror that's bigger than we can comprehend, that's been lingering this entire time, and this is like only the craziest minds in Gotham can even like begin to like think about it and comprehend it, because all the sane people just can't even start to think about it.
You didn't want to call it Lovecraftian, then you described exactly what Lovecraftian is.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Right.
I was thinking that. We're cracking a lot of references for comparisons this week.
Aye, but I guess I didn't have a specific Lovecraftian thing to compare it to, so I.
No, but that's to me that's usually what it like a sense of dread also accompanies, and there's that's in here.
I guess
compared it to Prince of Darkness, isn't that Carpenter's like take on Lovecraft?
No, it's more Myth of Madness is just taking Lovecraft. I mean, I guess it kind of is too, but
too confused.
I mean, I guess the reason why I sort of second guess myself though is because I feel like the backstory here is a bit more defined than I think of as Lovecraftian stories being. They tend to be a bit more ethereal and like vaguer. Whereas this is a bit more like, no, we have this backstory. We have like, you know, we're solidifying it a bit more.
It's all in the sense there was a holy man with visions, but where those visions came from, what the visions of doom were, all that stuff.
Yeah, true. I guess it's just the plot details just feel a little different to me. But I mean, I mean, sure.
I hope so. That's called originality.
There's a reason why I thought of Lovecraft in the first place, but there's also kind of a reason why I sort of doubted it a little bit as a comparison. But either way, there you go. That's Arkham City Order of the World issue 3. Matt, what are you giving the book?
8.5.
Connor.
Yeah, I'm going to go with 8.5 as well. Would have been the 9 if not for that very final panel.
Yeah, I'm also going to go 8.5, so I guess a clean, simple sweep of 8.5s from us. That's cool.